Rob Smedley just exposed the single toxic habit destroying Lewis Hamilton's Ferrari dream, according to Motorsport. After a disastrous debut season, a major engineer swap is confirmed by Formula One, but Smedley warns the damage might already be done. The honeymoon period at Maranello is officially over. We are in February 2026, and with Formula One confirming the schedule is just days away from preseason testing, the biggest story in the paddock isn't the new car. Instead, it is the massive shakeup inside Lewis Hamilton's garage, a development highlighted by the race. After a 2025 season that saw the seven-time champion struggle to match Charles Leclerc, Ferrari has made a brutal decision. Pit Debrief previously noted that Riccardo Adami was the veteran engineer supposed to guide Lewis through his Italian transition, but The Guardian reports he has now been moved aside. This staffing change functions as an admission of failure. Former Ferrari engineer Rob Smedley has just gone on record with a blistering analysis of why this partnership collapsed, pointing to a specific, painful habit that he believes is rotting the core of modern Formula One engineering. Smedley's comments explain exactly why Lewis sounded so frustrated on the radio last year, raising a terrifying question for the Tifosi about how they can possibly fight for a championship this season if the garage is in chaos. Here is the exact criticism driving the conversation. Smedley didn't hold back when describing the one thing that pains him to see in a race engineer. He argues that too many modern engineers have lost the ability to give immediate, decisive answers. He compared the role to a head coach in football, noting you cannot hesitate when your star athlete asks for direction. Smedley said it physically hurts him to hear a driver ask a complex technical question at 200 miles an hour, only to hear the engineer reply with a vague "copy" or "I'll get back to you." In his view, that hesitation breaks the trust instantly. When a driver like Lewis Hamilton is fighting a car that's sliding at the rear, he doesn't need a committee meeting, he needs a solution. Smedley insists that a race engineer must know the car's systems so intimately that they can answer before the driver even finishes the sentence. That level of instinctive knowledge was missing last year, and the silence on the radio was deafening. We actually saw this frustration boil over live on TV during the 2025 campaign. You might remember the radio message that went viral mid-season. Lewis asked Adami a critical question about tire strategy during a chaotic stint, and the silence stretched on for what felt like an eternity. Lewis eventually keyed the mic and joked that his engineer should go make a cup of tea while he waited. At the time, we laughed it off as classic Lewis banter. However, Smedley points to that exact moment as the red flag. He claims that when sarcasm starts creeping into the cockpit communications, the professional relationship is already fractured. It wasn't just a joke, it was a cry for help from a driver who felt isolated in the cockpit. That delay in information cost lap time and eroded the psychological safety net Lewis needs to perform at his peak. If you think Lewis can still turn this around and win his 8th title with a new engineer, make sure to subscribe and like the video. We are tracking every update from the Ferrari garage, just days away from the final preseason test. Now, let's look at who is replacing Adami. Ferrari has finally acted. Reports confirm that Riccardo Adami is moving to a factory-based role for the 2026 season. This is huge! Adami was Sebastian Vettel's rock, and the guy who knew the Ferrari culture inside out. But clearly, knowing the culture wasn't enough to manage the demands of Lewis Hamilton. The search for a replacement has been frantic. Rumors were flying that Ferrari might try to recruit someone from Mercedes, but that gardening leave period made it impossible. Instead, we are looking at a promotion from within or a dark horse candidate. Smedley warns that this is a dangerous game. Bringing in a fresh face for year 2 means restarting that complex relationship from zero. Max Verstappen and GP are finishing each other's sentences at Red Bull, while Lewis will be spending crucial testing days just learning his new engineer's voice. Smedley broke down the math of a winning partnership, calling it the 50-50 rule. In his experience, The job is 50% technical wizardry and 50% human psychology. You can be the smartest aerodynamicist in the paddock, but if you don't understand the human being in the cockpit, you will fail. He referenced his own famous relationship with Felipe Massa. There were days when Massa needed a hug and days he needed a kick, and Smedley knew exactly which button to press. With Lewis, that emotional connection was visibly absent last year. Adami is a brilliant engineer, technically speaking, but the emotional calibration was off. Smedley argues that Lewis doesn't just need data, he needs an emotional anchor. The new engineer entering the fray for 2026 has to be more than a calculator, because they need to be a psychologist. The radio chat wasn't the only problem, as the car itself was fighting Lewis. Smedley highlighted a technical misplagued Hamilton's 2025. The Ferrari SF25 was tail-happy, meaning the rear end was loose and unpredictable on corner entry. This is kryptonite for Lewis Hamilton. His entire driving style relies on trusting the rear of the car so he can brake late and rotate the car aggressively. Charles Leclerc, on the other hand, prefers a loose rear end since he can dance with it. This created a split in the garage. Adami was trying to set up a car that inherently didn't suit Lewis, and when Lewis asked for fixes, the answers weren't coming fast enough. The 2026 car needs to be different, but if the new engineer doesn't fight for Lewis's setup preferences against the Leclerc-centric design philosophy, history will repeat itself. Smedley couldn't help but draw the painful comparison to the team down the pit lane. Look at Max Verstappen and Gianpiero Lambiase. They argue, shout, and swear at each other, but they win. That relationship is bulletproof because there is zero hesitation. When GP tells Max to slow down, Max listens, eventually. When Max says the tires are dead, GP knows exactly what that means for the strategy. They have a shorthand language built over years of combat. Lewis Hamilton had that with Bono at Mercedes, but he does not have that at Ferrari. Smedley's point is that you cannot buy that chemistry. You have to build it. By swapping engineers now, Ferrari is effectively hitting the reset button, while Red Bull is just fine-tuning a machine that already works perfectly. The stakes for this season could not be higher. Smedley issued a stark warning that if this new relationship doesn't gel quickly, the 2026 campaign could be compromised. He noted that frustrations boil over very quickly when you are chasing a championship. If Lewis finds himself asking questions and getting silence again in Australia or China, the toxicity will return instantly. The cup of tea jokes will stop being jokes and start being public criticism. Ferrari management is taking a massive gamble here. They are betting that a change in personnel will fix a deep-rooted communication issue. But as Smedley notes, if the team culture doesn't support the engineer to make bold calls, simply changing the person holding the radio won't change the result. This means Lewis Hamilton is entering the most critical year of his career on the back foot. The dream of the 8th title in red relies entirely on how quickly this new engineer can adapt to the most demanding driver on the grid. Smedley's comments reveal that the problems at Ferrari ran much deeper than just getting used to the car. There is a systemic hesitation in the team that conflicts with Hamilton's need for instant, decisive action. If Ferrari has truly learned from Smedley's critique, they will have empowered this new engineer to be a true general rather than just a messenger. But if we hear more silence on the radio in Bahrain, we might be watching the final chapter of the Hamilton saga end in frustration rather than glory. The industry is watching, and Rob Smedley has just told us exactly what to listen for. The pieces are moving on the chessboard, but only the track will tell the truth. If you want to stay ahead of every twist in this Ferrari drama as we count down to the season opener, make sure you're subscribed. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you at the first corner.